Well, good afternoon, everyone. April Marie here, filling in for Leland today, the rest of this week, and early next week. I will be joined by some guests this week. I didn't have anyone obviously scheduled for today, but we'll have some people in the coming days. I wanted to mention, and I said this earlier, but for those of you, if you read 1819 News, a fun fact is you can find all of our emails at the bottom of our stories. So if you're reading one of my education stories and you're like, oh, you should know about this person, or oh, my child had this professor at Auburn, at Samford, at University of South Alabama, any of the schools in the state, literally any higher schools of higher education in the state, if they had a bad experience with a professor, and we've all heard about them, the professors who you can't write your paper a certain way or else they'll fail you. You know in class that they aren't accepting of other opinions, that they're teaching towards one thing or another. I will tell you this: we have had, and I don't want to say 100%, but we have had uh, a overwhelming majority of our stories where we are covering teachers who are doing what they're not supposed to be doing. Universities are responding to that because they don't want it. It interferes every time that someone is not in compliance with the law. That puts in jeopardy their state funding because lawmakers aren't playing. They want to get they want to get this liberal brainwashing out of our classrooms. And there's a big difference, by the way, from teaching a subject and teaching both sides of that subject and teaching kids how to have a discussion. That's one thing that the leftists have stopped. It has ceased being okay. And you can see this when conservative groups have speakers on campus and the left has protested it by interrupting it or trying to stop people from going in or whatever way they decide to do this. But these kids aren't being taught that you can look across the table at somebody who completely disagrees with your point of view and you can have a respectful conversation. That's different than what we're reporting on. We're reporting on intolerance. We're reporting on teachers who are, out there just giving completely one-sided, which is libertarian wackadoodle theories on things. And those are the people who, over time, kids are exposed to only one perspective because that's what we have let education become, how education has become hijacked. That's what we have allowed to happen. And so that's what we're covering. And you can always shoot me a message if you have, and you got a student who's home for the summer and they want to say, hey, look at this teacher. My email's there. You can absolutely do that. All right, before we went to break, I was talking about 4th of July, and I was talking about my love of 4th of July. And specifically, I'm going to call it Independence Day. I do interchange the two, but I want to be clear. We are celebrating our independence. We are celebrating the founding fathers' vision of our country and the rights that we have and all of the things about being this great nation that we are. We've got Lamar on the line. Let's see what he has to say. Hey, Lamar.
Hey, my lady, I'm tipping my hat to you because I'm 61 years old, turned 62, and I come from a veteran family that had the flag on their shoulders when they went to fight. Like my grandfather, World War II, my dad, Korea,
Awesome.
my sons, Iraq and Afghanistan, and we are church going, American loving people. But the thing that I have noticed, and see, I still work full time, is the younger generation coming in their 20s getting where they getting these ideas in their head from the colleges or the
Yeah.
teachers about some of that stuff that you're talking about. We don't mix too well because they try to force that mess on me. And I turned around and what's your name? Your name?
Oh, April Marie.
April Marie. Nice to meet you, April.
Nice to meet you.
I love this show, by the way. I call it up all the time. So I turned around and I said, let me tell you something, young man. I said, do you want to debate this about how we got here, about the Star Spangled Banner, how we got the national anthem, how we got that song, the Star Spangled Banner, where the flag never hits the ground? Or are you one of them flag burning? He said, if I don't like something, I fly it upside down or I
Mm,
stomp on it. I said, don't do it in front of me.
yeah, no.
Just don't do it in front of me. That's all I got to tell you. And if you don't like this country, then go somewhere else, and you'll find out how great this country really is.
Yep.
And it's scary that the colleges had liberal professors and teachers put in there, so they're having to get the young minds. They're too late to get to me.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
go ahead.
Oh, no, absolutely. They're getting them at colleges. They're getting them online through social media, through TikTok and YouTube, and all, with these influencers. It's pure insanity. And then you, as a parent or as a grandparent, you instill these values in your kids. And what we haven't realized until now is that they're being undermined every single day. So we're talking about it on, this is why I think parents and grandparents have to talk about it every single day, because that's what the left is doing. Every single day, they're in
Well, I
their
tell
ear.
you, I'm trying not to take up too much time because you got a wonderful show. You're doing a great job too. I just want to tell you, and I appreciate how you stand up. You'd be on my side in battle, I guarantee you. When Trump was running for president against Kamala Harris, they brought a bunch of Haitians out from Haiti and put them to work up there with us. Well, their ideology is completely different than ours. And then as I was sitting outside with my friends, this Haitian come up and put his phone right in my face, and he said, "You see this man right here? This man is a Nazi communist." And boy, I had to hold in my temper. I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "Haiti." I said, "I'm going to tell you something. I'm born here. My family come here in 1678 from England and fought in the Revolutionary War to free this country. We fought for this land, blood on the battlefield. My family was in it." I said, "Don't ever again come up to me, because I'm a nice guy, and do that to me again like that when you are only here for the paycheck, because your country sucks. If your country was any good, you wouldn't have left it.
Right.
So don't come here and try to change this culture, because this cat right here, I may be older, but I ain't dead. I can beat 300 pounds. I'm in good shape for my age. So don't do that again, out of respect."
Yep.
And he didn't do it again.
And he
so
didn't. And he
that's
learned
the
his
kind of
lesson.
thing that man, I would have taught him a lesson, because I know how to box. My dad was a professional boxer at one time. So I don't want to have to do that, though, Amy. I don't want to have to go there with that kind of thing.
Yep.
I don't. But it's scary when you see what's going on and people celebrating Iran, hoping we lose something.
That's what
soldiers killed.
I said that earlier. I said, if you are cheering for Trump's failure, what you are actually cheering for is you're cheering against our nation. You're cheering against our military. You're, to want the United States to lose because you want Trump to lose. Then you want lives put at risk, whether it's lives here at home or those serving us across overseas. It is absolutely pitiful to see the left gleeful. "Oh, it's not going to work. The ceasefire's not going to work. I'm telling you." Stop wishing bad things upon our nation. Stop wishing bad things upon our soldiers.
Yes.
This isn't complicated.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you.
I'll tell you something, man. You take care. I prayed for my sons every day when they was overseas that they'd come back, and they did. They were great soldiers.
Well, thank them for their service. And
I appreciate you, Amy. You're a soldier, too, and I love you. You keep up the good work, okay?
Thank you, Lamar. I appreciate it. You have a great day.
Bye-bye.
All right. We got Brian on the line. Let's see what Brian says. Hi, Brian.
Hey, how are you doing today?
I am doing just fine. How are you?
I just wanted to say 36 years ago, I went to a Southern Baptist seminary, and I failed an Old Testament class because I turned in a paper with inclusive pronouns instead of exclusive pronouns. And I saw this coming long ago, but no one would listen to me. My government teacher in high school told me it was coming, and no one saw it
This
coming.
is at seminary?
So, yes, Baptist Seminary, Southern Baptist Seminary in Louisville.
That's crazy.
I failed the class. And then the next semester, I retook the class under a different professor, and I made an A on the same paper, passed the class, and made an A.
Of course you did. And that's why we had people, when I was doing my my stories on Samford University, they were like, that's a friendly college. And I'm like, yes, but if they've got teachers teaching bad things, if they've got teachers, undermining the faith of their students and downplaying that, diminishing that, going into a class with the objective of doing that, then we have a problem. We need to be talking about that problem. because
That's right. My wife and I went to Sanford 40 years ago, and they wouldn't take what they're getting today. You know, the board wouldn't take it. You know, they would let a professor go if he or she acted that way.
oh yeah, they have professors there who are openly non-Christian. They are not individual. In what world do you have somebody who is not only secular but somebody who is against Christianity teaching at
Well,
a college campus, a Christian college campus? It makes no sense. And
you do
administrators,
today, 2026.
you do today, which and they know what they're doing. They are going there for the sole purposes of undermining the foundation and faith that those students came in with.
Well, my ancestors came here in 1620 on the Mayflower, and as pilgrims. So I've had a strong upbringing in the Bible, and but that just doesn't count anymore to some people.
Well, as I said earlier, we are naming and shaming those who are in Alabama universities who are doing this. So if anybody can relate to this story, you got failed for not buying into the leftist liberal mindset. You can shoot me a message or give me a call. All right, Brian. Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good
All
day.
right, take
Bye
care.
bye.
All right, we've talked ourselves right into a break here. We're going to be back on the other side of this. You're listening to April Marie, filling in for Leland. You can find me on X at APRYLMARIE. Yes, I'm on Facebook, and I'm terrible at it. So you won't find a lot there, but X is where you can find me most days. And, of course, 1819 News. Back in just a minute. Well, good evening. Been saying out good afternoon all day. Good evening. April Marie here, filling in for Leland today, the rest of this week, and early next week. Huge shout out to thank you to Valerie for letting me come hang out with you guys. AJ attempting to keep me out of trouble in these long afternoons. Thank you for that, AJ. I saw some breaking news. A police scanner chatter has indicated that emergency crews responded Monday morning to a shooting near Chalkville School Road. The call was made about 11:30 this morning, and it indicates that a juvenile has been shot in the stomach. And so that is some breaking news on the Trussville Tribune. As I mentioned earlier, just stay weather aware, guys. It is changing. When it was looking pretty dark and ugly when I came in earlier, and now it is not as sunny and pretty out there. But the storms they continue to roll on in.
I'm just so glad I was able to cut my grass Saturday, because if not, it would have been a nightmare. It's got to the point where it's high enough,
right,
where I have to like cut and then lift up the lawnmower to get all that grass and then keep on cutting, so.
Yeah, can't let it get too long. I have a guy who I just found on social media, basically, who was doing the lawn. But last time he came, he was supposed to come in the afternoon, and then he came late at night and had to use his headlights to mow part of the grass because he ran out of light. And then I was worried my neighbors, he's going to be cutting the grass at night. And so yeah, back to my daughter being the lawn cutting person.
Yeah, I've done that before, where I had to do an event, and I was like, oh man, I kind of stayed a little bit too long at this event, so I needed to cut my grass. So I had to hurry up and get home, and I had maybe about 20 minutes of sunlight.
And then you had to make do?
I had to make do. Luckily, I got my front yard done. Backyard was still, I had to do it the next day. But, yeah, I've done that before. And I had to look around. I'm like, man, will my neighbors be upset? Then I heard my other neighbor yard getting cut at the same time. So I was like,
we're good.
I'm good.
We're good. I got this. Yeah, no, it's a whole thing. I am, like I say, new. I'm a new, still, this is my first home I've owned. There's still things I'm getting used to. Lawn care is one of them. All right, so lots politically going on. AL.com ran a story over the weekend about the cost of runoff elections. And essentially, states are going to these ranked voting, and they're going to no runoffs. I am not a fan. I am not a fan of this idea. I truly believe in a state like Alabama, where you are, where you end up with two candidates. And I talked on Friday about my thoughts on what this most recent election was, and how brutal all of them. There was something just goofy about them. And voters, by the way, important, I want to point it out, and to point it out again, is they did not respond well to negativity. And we had so much negativity in this last election cycle. But I think that voters in this state, especially when there's, when it's one thing if you're dealing with two candidates and it's one, you've got a clear winner there. But if you got three and you're not really sure where those votes are going to come or go to afterwards, and people want to really have an opportunity. If you're locked into a candidate and that's your candidate, and you'll see in some of these polls where it's like, okay, if you're between, Marshall and Jared Hudson and Barry Moore, and then if you're locked into one candidate, you're usually not paying too much early on. You're not paying attention to the other two. And so that's where that runoff, it's make or break, make your case, right? And someone like a Jared Hudson, who just came in, kind of everybody didn't know him. He hadn't run statewide. He didn't have that record. He deserved the opportunity to tell people about himself. And I feel strongly that runoff elections are a good thing. AL.com was trying to make the case maybe not. Jim Ziegler was weighing in on the maybe we don't need runoffs based on the cost of them. Because it's, if you don't get 50%, if one candidate doesn't get 50%, then it goes into that runoff. And he was saying, well, look, I was 20 points ahead of the next person. It was obvious I was going to win. I don't think there is such a thing as an obvious win. I think those runoff elections give us an opportunity. You never know when a candidate that you are just thrilled about is going to turn out to have had a girlfriend who used to have a pet raccoon. What in the heck was that? I will never get over that ad. I will never, never, never get over the ad and how ridiculous that was. But all kidding aside, you just don't know. And so I'm a fan of the runoffs. I know there's a cost incurred there, but I feel like this is one of those situations where our votes need to count and people need to earn and win those votes. You look at the Kay Ivey race, the last election that Kay Ivey had, and it was Kay Ivey and it was Tim James and it was Lindy Blanchard. Had Kay been pushed into a runoff there, people really would have paid attention. I feel like they were asleep at the wheel on that one. They were like, we know Kay, and so we're voting for her. She's the safe choice. Was she the best choice? I don't believe so. But by not having gotten into had she gotten into a runoff, she would have actually had to show up. She would have actually had to participate in the race. With 3 in there and using her name ID, she skated through. But that's one of those where if there had been a runoff, I think we could have had completely different results. And so you can't convince me that we should do away with those. Thankfully, the chairman of the Republican Party came out and said, no, we're not doing away with those. Thanks, but no thanks. We're not following the lead of blue states, and we're not getting into any of these other voter types out there. So, but that was an interesting article, and I had a few conversations about it. Does anybody besides Jim Ziegler and apparently the people over at AL.com, does anybody want this? I don't know anybody. If you do, feel free to give us a call on the phone lines 545-9950. I would say, or text us. But AJ, we haven't been going any text. If we get any good texts, we'll go to them.
Yes, we will.
But yes, you can text in if you would like to see those runoffs done away with.
And and honestly, I have to be more mindful of doing the text messages. I know people have been texting, and like sometimes I go to them, and sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, we do have that, so I'll be feeling bad.
It's okay. You got a lot going on over there. People don't realize how much the producer is doing behind the scenes. I cannot produce. I've sat at a board before. Comedy ensued because I don't have the ability to talk and monitor levels and monitor calls and get ready for the next ads. It's comically entertaining, to be honest. All right, so talking about some of today's top stories, let's see what we've got. We've got in Washington, D.C., we've got a bunch of liberals out there protesting in support of algae. Yeah, that's happening in real life. We've got Joy Reid talking about blacks not celebrating 4th of July. We've got liberals across the country cheering for Iran. Well, but they're actually cheering for Trump's failure. We want the Biden plan to have been better than the Trump plan. Well, look, first off, right now we've got a 60-day MOU, and those negotiations are continuing. So if you're over there going, aha, Trump's been had, let's let the real deal go through. Let's see what he's got going on. And that's what I am going to encourage you today. When we come back, we'll talk about all the things going on, state and national. Back in just a minute. You're listening to April Marie. Well, good afternoon, everyone. April Marie here, filling in for Leland. People driving home, all I can imagine right now, AJ, is people, like, as much as I love the music, people driving in their car being like, getting into the groove of a slow song like that. Uh, I had a couple of headlines I wanted to go through with you. Uh, I got AJ put his headphones on for that. Sorry, AJ. I was just saying. I can I'm just imagining people in their cars, getting a little zoned out because of our slow songs over here. This week has the potential to be a big week over at the Supreme Court. There's still a bunch of important decisions. The next batch of decisions are expected this Thursday. They'll start rolling out about 10 a.m. Some of the major decisions as the court gets near its summer recess are the temporary protected status, cases testing the president's authority to rescind protected status for immigrants from certain countries, birthright citizenship. That's going to be a huge one. That really is. And I truly, I am so hoping that the Supreme Court recognizes that this has become an industry. This has become anchor babies. And it's so many people, oh, you can't call him that. Oh, you can't say that. Well, look around you. Look at what has been stirred up because of this conversation. Oh, well, those children didn't have a opportunity. Okay, well, go look at the news headlines every time we try to deport somebody and see the left use these children. Oh, well, they're going to be separated from their babies. Okay, well, Tom Homan answered this, solved this problem, and answered this the best way we can, which is no, they're not being separated. They can go with them. The second best thing that can happen, besides whole families going back to where they came from together, is that the Supreme Court comes in and says, no, you cannot come here, 8.5 months pregnant, have a baby, have that baby have citizenship, and then use that baby to get your citizenship. No, you cannot cross the border a couple of days before you're due illegally, although we do not have the illegal boarding crossings that we used to, and stay here indefinitely because you've had this baby. No, you cannot be a part of one of these industries that is literally using the visa process to bring in women so that they can have their baby in the United States and give that baby citizenship. So that's going to be a big case for us to see. There's also disputes related to men and women's sports. I don't know why we needed the U.S. Supreme Court to figure this out. Anyone with a brain can figure this out. Even the left, I believe, is being disingenuous with this. I really do. This idea that we don't have women's sports for a specific purpose, that we don't have gender neutral, or that we don't have gender specific bathrooms for a purpose, women's prisons, women's domestic violence shelters. There is a level of idiocy here if we are to believe that everybody out there screaming for, and I'm going to put in air quotes here, transgender rights, that they don't know that this is an absolute farce. Half of the women, and don't get me on my liberal white women rant, because that we would literally spend the next 20 minutes on that. But these women who fought so hard, oh, we're feminists, oh, women can do everything, we got to protect women. They're not protecting women now. They're throwing them under the bus, and we keep having to have the U.S. Supreme Court say what is common sense. We had to have the U.S. Supreme Court, and this was one of the reasons that I have so much respect for our Attorney General Steve Marshall. The U.S. Supreme Court had to say, no, we can't poison and butcher young kids. Like, imagine getting on the court and thinking you're going to be dealing with regular cases, and instead you have to look at a case where someone's arguing that men should be able to compete in girls' sports and that should be protected. It's goofy, all sorts of goofy. We have other executive and voting power cases that are also on the agenda. As I was looking at that, and so you guys know, just brace yourself, because Thursday, as those cases are released, we're going to talk about them, because I love me some SCOTUS cases. I think right now especially as what we've seen under the Biden administration. We now have to walk back and undo what the left has done, the crazy. We have to walk back the crazy. A lot of what we're dealing with immigration wise, it's because Biden just was like, there's a law. We're gonna make our own rules though. We're gonna do things our own way. It's ridiculous is what it is, patently just crazy time that we're having to deal with that, but that's where we are. I saw this story and I thought it's really actually sad, but during a panel on Friday, just this last week, judges shared how their lives have been changed amid an uptick in threats against members of the courts of the judiciary, including Supreme Court justices. One U.S. District Court noted that there have been more than 340 threats to federal judges so far in 2026. There were 564 in 2025. This is what happens when you have an entire population of the United States who does not like not getting their way. They really have this baby mentality. This is what happens when you have the media vilifying the judges. After the U.S. Supreme Court case that came down on the redistricting, we saw it for weeks. We saw it right here in Montgomery. People saying that the U.S. Supreme Court, the current U.S. Supreme Court, was trying to take us back to Jim Crow. That the U.S. Supreme Court is made up of racist members. That we need to pack the courts. That we need to, it was all day, every day, from both Democrat elected officials, including our own Terry Sewell. And I started talking about that earlier. I really do feel strongly that Terry Sewell has, and if you haven't seen it, Catherine Robertson got into a back and forth with her on Twitter. We have really seen Terry Sewell overplay her hand. On one hand, she was saying that Democrats need to take control of all congressional seats that they can in blue states. And then she's over here saying, if you take my seat, you're racist. No, you don't get it both ways. Stop using accusations of racism to fit your agenda. It's ridiculous. And they have done this and they have vilified the courts in the process. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that with these threats. 340 as of 2026 for federal judges. And what it does, here's what the federal judge said. If the real goal is a long-term strategy to erode the trust and integrity of the judicial system by discouraging people from entering into this particular profession, the answer is, unfortunately, it's getting close to do just that. And that was a judge on the 11th Circuit Appeals. It's really sad. And that comes for politics in general. You've got, in this day and age, and I was watching this conversation between the Attorney General in Florida and people online of why people don't use their real names online, why people will use hide behind something, and the detriment that can come of forcing people to use their real names. And what happens is we are now in this position. And it used to be, oh, you're Chicken Little over here, worried the sky is falling. Well, look at the assassination attempts on Donald Trump. Look at the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Look at all of the swattings that have happened from figures on the right. These threats are real and we have to take them seriously. And of course, yes, it discourages people, even people who do radio or news or print. I mean, 1819, they had a number before I joined the team, a number of death threats against them. We are just in a weird time. And there is a certain group doing this. And it's not the Constitution loving, flag waving conservatives, Christian conservatives. It's the rabid leftists who have been brainwashed in their classrooms, have been brainwashed on television, on their TikTok, on all the things. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll close out the final segment of the show. You are listening to April Marie, filling in for Leland. Well, good evening, everyone. April Marie here, filling in for Leland. Back again tomorrow and the rest of this week. You can find me on X at APRYLMARIE. Of course, now they have the Talk 99.5 YouTube page, Real Talk 99.5 TV, if you want to see the funny faces I make. I had been signing into that and doing the chat. I haven't over the last couple of days. I'll try to remember to do that tomorrow. Revisiting some of the top headlines as we wind up today's show. At the beginning of the show, it had just happened, but President Donald Trump endorsed Jerry Carl for Congressional District 1 and Rhett Markey in District 2 for the Congressional Special Election primaries that are happening now. That special election is going to be held, that election will be held on August 11th. The timing of them were such that they came within a minute or two of one another. And so that is breaking news this afternoon. I talked a little bit about two reports that I did over the weekend. One of them, the University of Alabama has promoted one of its DEI champions. Now, when they did so, they put out a press release. He was promoted, by the way, to Associate Provost and Dean of the UA Graduate School. And when they put out the press release touting his credentials, they left off some things. They left off that he spent years in leadership as both the president and vice president of the Black Faculty and Staff Association. And in that role, he participated in a die-in and a work-in in support of a dean who ultimately left the university. They were very coy about the way in which he left. But a day after some of his Breitbart reported some of the messages he had posted online, including the American flag, an image of the flag emoji, represents a systemic history of racism for my people. Police are a part of that system. Is that hard to see? Is it that hard to see the correlation? That wasn't even, that was a pretty bad thing he believed. But the other one is, he said, I am baffled at how the first thing white people say is, quote, that's not racist, end quote, when they can't even experience racism. You have zero opinion. Okay, so that guy left the university, and then all heck broke loose because students were upset because he should have the right to say that. Now, the university, it later came out that they paid some kind of severance package or settlement package for him to go, and his career has been all great. But the man who was just promoted, with that promotion going into effect next week, boy, did he have a lot to say about that guy leaving the school. Like I said, they hosted at a die-in, they hosted a work-in. They ended up putting out several letters to President Bell. This guy has just DEI all the way up to his eyes. He was a part of President Bell's DEI presidential committee, and now he has been promoted. Now, UA, to understand how just crazy this is, UA has been saying for, I don't know, a year and a half, we're getting it together. We're cleaning up the mess. And yet they repeatedly keep promoting people at the center of the mess. You can check that story out on 1819 News. The number one trending story on that site is a story that I wrote that also has my blood boiling, and I want to use it as a reminder. Parents, now it's summertime. This is a great opportunity for you to talk to your kids. A lot of us grow up with stranger danger, right? If you were like me, I was a kid in the 80s. We all were told to stay away from the sketchy white van and the person offering us puppies and candy. That's not the way abuse happens. In this story, it is parents coming out just pretty angry. And I got to say, I'm really excited to see that some fathers taking the lead on this one. But Skyline High School in Jackson County, Alabama, a basketball coach allowed a man who is a registered, reports are, that he allowed a man who is a registered sex offender to possibly work a concession stand, to possibly do some training, some coaching on the side. a man who was convicted and on the sex registry, convicted sex offender. The man had been, and his name is Brian Dale Farmer. He had been a teacher and a basketball coach in Tennessee at the time of his arrest. He was indicted in 2007 with a total of 18 charges and 3 victims, which included 4 counts of statutory rape and 14 counts of sexual battery by an authority figure. I tell you this story. If you know anybody in Skyline, make sure or in Jackson County, make sure they're paying attention to the way that officials are handling this situation. But B, it's a reminder to parents that what we are used to telling our kids, what we had to tell ourselves, what our parents told us, our grandparents told us growing up, that's not where the danger lies right now. The danger lies in TikTok, in Snapchat, in text messages, in things we didn't have. The danger resides in your coaches, your teachers, your next door neighbors, the people who are closest to you. And we need to make sure we are reminding our kids that grooming, the signs and symptoms of grooming are, and that comes for our young girls and our young men, and to talk to you, make sure there's an open line of communication here. I'm doing more on that story, so we'll have more on that later this week. You guys have a great evening. As I've said several times, be weather aware. You can check out those stories and more I've written on 1819 News. I'll be back again tomorrow. AJ, you ready for another hour?
I am ready. I see Will in the parking lot, so
waiting for you down there.
Yes.
It's like the tag out. All right.
All right. Appreciate you. I'll see you tomorrow, April Marie. Appreciate everybody tuning in to Leland Live. Yeah, Breaking Break coming up next. Till next time. Goodbye, AJ.